My name is Somashekar, course faculty for this course. Hello friends, very good morning to one and all. Hope you have enjoyed the lecture 8. Please note you have studied in the last lecture the followings: pneumatic control system, introduction, air preparation, distribution system, different piping layouts, receiver tank control using pressure switch, inlet regulation and exhaust regulations. We studied the air compressor, which are the power source of pneumatic system, in which the main classifications include non-positive and a positive displacement compressors. Also we discussed in detail the tree structure. Mainly the reciprocating compressors include piston type and diaphragm type, while reciprocating compressors include vane type, lobe type, screw type and a water ring type. Operating principles and application suitability of these compressors we discussed in the last class, and also the selection criteria. In today's lecture, we will discuss mainly on energy loss, cost breakdown, pressure drop, what are the causes, how to minimize the pressure drop, empirical equations and nomograms used in predicting the pressure drop, and finally we will learn the best practices and tips for compressed air piping system. We'll move on to the today's lecture organization of presentation. Let us very quickly, I will recap on air preparation and air distribution system, which is an input to this lecture. Energy loss and cost breakdown, pressure drop and its impact. Here we'll discuss what causes the pressure drop, how to minimize the pressure drop, air distribution or a pipe layout, basically sizing of the pipe and tube, pipe materials and fittings. Important airflow parameters, main factors of interest in distribution system, then pressure drop predictions using empirical relations and nomogram. Best practices for compressed air piping system, installation tips, and finally I'll conclude today's lecture. Let us will recap what we have studied in the last lecture. We have seen the air preparation is one of the prime requirement in the pneumatic control system. We know that it includes the generation, then primary air treatment, secondary air treatment, then air will go to the actuator through the various valves. Correct? Generation, we are using the compressor. The duty of compressor is to suck the air from the atmosphere through the intake filters and compresses the air to the required pressure and then transfer to the next of the system process, what we will call the primary air treatment. What is this primary air treatment? As we know, the exit air, compressed air from the compressor is a very hot. Again, it contains the particles, foreign particles, which are not able to remove from the intake filters. So the hot air should be cooled using the after coolers and also filters out, and then during the cooling stage moisture vapors will enter through the air. Then we require the air dryers. Then it will go to the receiver tank. The receiver tank contains the required quantity of air with required pressure. There is always a link between the receiver tank and the motor. or a compressor, because you should not run the compressor continuously. It leads to various losses. Today we'll discuss what are these. Then once it is stored, the air, it should be distributed to the pneumatic machine tools or air tools. How it is? Using the ring main layouts. Before going to the walls or any machine tools, air should be again filtered, regulated and lubricated using the secondary air treatment device, what is known as FRL. Then it will go to the valves and then actuators. This is a very lengthy process of air preparation which will consumes the lot of money. And also remember friends, the air is passing from the compressor to the distribution point, correct, various points. We are using the various pipelines, joints, links, correct, many things we are using, tubings. Wherever the connectors are there, a lot of losses are incurred during the process. Today's lecture concentrate on all these aspects. Also we are seeing the air distribution system or a piping layout playing a major role in reducing the pressure drops and losses. What is this? The objective of the air distribution system is to act as a leak-proof carrier of the compressed air and keep pressure drop within the permissible limits. We have seen in the last class the different types of piping layout. The main fold layout from the compressor distributes, and ring main layout, more popular, used in many industries. These are all the tapping points, tapping to the various machines and power tools to drive it. Here it is the interconnected network layout. Various branches, each branch is equipped with the on-off valves. And these are the tapping points. Then also we have seen in the last class, you should not transport the compressed air in the straight line pipes. Always it is inclined. Then air is tapped from the top. That's why it is a tapping points. You will see the tapping points from the top. And it will go to the branch lines. Then air will flow here. Then whatever the water is contained here, it will take it out through the water traps. That's why always downward gradient of the pipes, main pipes, 1 to 2%. We have seen all this thing in the last class. Very quickly going to the pressure drop calculations, some of the important parameters required is absolute pressure and absolute temperature. You have studied these things in many places like in thermodynamics, fluid mechanics and many other courses. Quickly I will tell you, most of the pneumatic component suppliers still use a US customary units for specifying the components like a pipe and tube sizes by inch, pressure by PSIG, in SI unit kPa, kilopascal, to signify the gauge pressure. PSIA, meaning it is pounds per square inch absolute. Here pounds per square inch gauge, correct, in SI unit kb absolute, to signify the absolute pressure. Absolute pressure we know that PABS equal to P gauge plus P atmosphere. It should be noted that wherever you are seeing the PSIA or kPa is used in any fluid literatures, it is always treated as the gauge pressure. Some books they will not write PSIG, they will write PSIA. It is understood that all are the gauge pressures. The pressure of the atmospheric air is equal to 14.7 PSIA or 101 kPa ABS or 1 bar ABS at a sea level. The atmospheric pressure is lower at higher elevation because there is less air about to exert a pressure. Atmospheric temperature is a scale that uses the absolute zero as its 0 point. That is a minus 460 degree Fahrenheit or 273 degree centigrade. In the US, the customary system, absolute temperature is measured in degrees Rankine. To convert between the Fahrenheit and degree Rankine, use the relations R equal to F plus 460. In metric unit, the absolute temperature is measured in Kelvin. To convert between the degree centigrade and a Kelvin, use the relation K equal to C plus 273. Knowing this absolute pressure and absolute temperature, we will move on to the energy loss and a cost breakdown. What is this? Energy loss and a cost breakdown from the generation to the point of use of the compressed air. What happens? According to physics and thermodynamics of air compression, compressing an air is naturally inefficient and expensive process. This is because of many reasons. Some of them are: most of the electrical power consumed by the motor that drives the air compressor heats the air. So, the air that exists from the compressor must then be cooled, which requires a fan and an air or water cooled heat exchangers, which consumes even more energy. Also, once the air is cooled, moisture formation takes place, and hence again it requires air dryers and water collectors. At last, once the air is compressed and stored in the receiver tank, it has to be delivered at certain pressure and a quantity to the end user. So, as the air is transported through the various piping, bends, connector, etc., losses occurs and inefficiencies arise along the way. Also, based on the air quality requirement at the each tapping in the branch circuit, we are using the FRL units, again for filtering, regulating and lubricating the air. Please note, at the end of the line, the compressed air is often used incorrectly or for purposes not intended by the original designer. In the end, only about 5 to 10% of the original energy input performs the useful work in the manufacturing process. Then question arises, where are the losses incurred during the air preparation to the end of the use of this compressed air? Then you see here, friends, the input, energy input 100 kilowatt is used, most of this energy is used to heat the air, 80% for heat of compression, 5% motor and drive efficiencies, 5 to 10% waste, that is irrecoverable pressure loss, also leakage, artificial demand, inappropriate use, 5 to 10% only use. For example, let us consider a 100 HP air compressor that consumes 0.746 kilowatt per horsepower. It runs for 8,760 hours per year. This is assuming the plant operates 24 hours per day and 365 days per day. Assuming this, I am getting these many hours with a 75% load factor. What is this? Full loaded at 75% of the time and 93% electric power efficiency. If energy costs rupees 8 per kilowatt on average, what is the annual cost of running this compressor? Knowing these parameters, we'll calculate what is the cost incurred here. 100 HP motor, how much power we are using, and then how many hours we are running the compressor. Then what is the load factor? How much percentage we are using the compressor. Then what is the cost per kilowatt and motor efficiency. We will get here rupees 42 lakh 16,103 per year. See friends, how much cost we are using to compress the air. Electricity, how much we are using. In round numbers, this 100 HP air compressor would cost approximately rupees 42.16 lakhs per year just for the electricity. If you assume a plant with 1000 horsepower of air compressor operating at the same condition, would spend around, see, the billions of rupees per year. To help make air compression somewhat more economical, consider setting your machine to switch off when they are not being used. Depending on your shift pattern, turning your compressor off during evening and weekends could reduce your energy bills significantly. Here compressor control is playing a major role. That's why I told you there are three important methods to control the compressor: using the pressure switch, or a inlet regulation, exhaust regulation you have to do. As and when required, you will run the compressor to store the air at required pressure and required quantity in the receiver tank. Once it is stored, you have to switch off automatically. Also, stop misusing the compressed air. Operators on the plant floor might think of compressed air as a free commodity and, using their creativity, think all sort of things to do with compressed air. One example, compressed air is frequently used to blow water or dirt off of manufactured parts. These compressed air cleanups, called blow-offs, typically include a pipe or hose supplied with compressed air that feeds to one or more outlet or nozzles. These blow-offs are typically just big air leaks. If air will leaks, pressure drops will take place. Compressed air is used in many applications, even though a different method would be far more economical. So many applications can be done more effectively or efficiently using a method other than the compressed air. But people don't know the significance of compressed air. They will do lot of misuse of this compressed air. So currently, reducing the pressure drop is the main concern to enhance the performance. Now we'll see the pressure drop and its impact. The pressure drop is a term used to characterize the reduction in air pressure from the compressor discharge to the actual point of use. Pressure drop occurs as the compressed air travels through the treatment and distribution system. A properly designed system should have a pressure loss of much less than 10% of the compressor's discharge pressure, measured from the receiver tank outlet to the point of use. Excessive pressure drop will result in poor system performance and excessive energy consumption. Flow restrictions of any type in the system requires higher operating pressures than are needed, resulting in higher energy consumptions. Minimizing differentials in all parts of the system is an important part of efficient operation. Pressure drop upstream of the compressor signal requires higher compression pressures to achieve the control settings on the compressor. The most typical problem areas include the aftercooler, lubricant separator, and check valves. A rule of thumb for a system in the 100 psig range is, for every 2 psig increase in discharge pressure, energy consumption will increase by approximately 1% at full output flow. There is also another penalty for higher than needed pressure. Raising the compressor discharge pressure increases the demand of every unregulated usage, including leaks, open blowing, etc. Although it varies by plant, unregulated usage is commonly as high as 30 to 50% of air demand. For system in the 100 psig range with 30 to 50% unregulated usage, a 2 psig increase in header pressure will increase energy consumption by about another 0.6 to 1.0% because of the additional unregulated air being consumed. So the combined effect results in a total increase in energy consumption of about 1.6 to 2% for every 2 psig increase in discharge pressure for a system in the 100 psig range with 30 to 50% unregulated usage. See how much we are wasting the energy. So pressure drop in the distribution system and in hoses and a flexible connections at a point of use results in lower operating pressure at the points of use. If the point of use operating pressure has to be increased, try reducing the pressure drops in the system before adding capacity or increasing the system pressure. Increasing the compressor discharge pressure or adding a compressor capacity results in what happens here? Significant increase in energy consumption. That's why don't do this. Elevating system pressure increases unregulated uses such as leaks, open blowing, and production applications without regulators or with wide open regulators. The added demand at an elevated pressure is termed as artificial demand and substantially increases energy consumption. Instead of increasing the compressor discharge pressure or adding additional compressor capacity, alternative solution should be sought, such as reduced pressure drop and strategic compressed air storage. Also, equipment should be specified and operated at the lowest efficient operating pressure.